All right, so with Rose coming out, she's a very hot commodity. Everybody wants to play her. She's a zoner. She has good fireball, air fireball. But when should you throw that fireball? When is a safe time to throw it, and when should you be throwing it? Now, I want this to apply to multiple games, but I'm going to use Street Fighter V because I think it's one of the most basic, and I'm going to use Ryu because I think he's one of the most vanilla characters that we can use here, and this is probably the best control group. And before we get started, I want to give all credit to my friend Austin. He's a zoner player. He plays, all the zoners, Dalsum, Rose. He played a little bit of Sagat. Very well versed in that archetype. So I asked him for a lot of help. He doesn't really have a YouTube or anything, but I just wanted to shout him out and let you guys know that the information here is coming from a reputable source, right? Grandmaster player and a very good zoner player. So getting right into it, when you start the game, right, we're going to see round one, and then you're going to be like this, right? Let's reset just to make sure. We're going to be standing like this. What you don't want to do is throw a fireball immediately, right? You want to get to a safer distance if your plan is to throw a fireball and not to close space right off the bat, right? Now, why is this? This is because you're leaving yourself open to a jump in. You're leaving yourself open to a lot of damage for not a lot of reward, right? Sure, if the fireball hits, you get like 50 damage, right? But if it doesn't hit and they jump, you're going to eat like a quarter of your health, right? And that's probably true for most games, most 2D fighters where jump-ins are a main source of damage. Instead, at round start, what you want to be ready to do is maybe anti-air or maybe check a dash. Or check some type of movement in whatever game it may be. If you're playing DBFZ and somebody's key blasting off start, maybe you want to drag and rush through it. So let's say you do start getting a fireball game established, right? You're throwing some fireballs outside of your opponent's range where you won't get punished. And they start neutral jumping them, right? They start neutral jumping and avoiding your fireballs. And you can't put out another fireball until this one connects or gets off the screen. What you want to do is let them neutral jump it and then just take your space, right? Throw your fireball, let them neutral jump it, and then just walk up a little bit, take your space. And remember, we want to be throwing fireballs from outside of big jump-in ranges. The reason you still want to close that space is because even though you're a zoner, you probably have good pokes and benefit from putting the enemy in the corner, right? Even though usually, before I played any zoners, I always thought, I want to be across the screen throwing fireballs. But your character probably has good buttons, right? And caging somebody in the corner with, fireballs or long normals is a very powerful thing too that you should consider. Now, let's say you don't want to throw fireballs across the screen, right? You can throw these fireballs at jumping ranges if you want, but you have to establish an anti-air game, right? If I throw fireball here and he jumps, I have to be ready to anti-air. And I have to have done this before in the same game to let him know that I'm ready to anti-air. And sometimes this isn't going to work because you can't condition your opponent, right? Sometimes they don't care what you're doing and they're just going to keep jumping. So you just have to keep that in mind if you do want to throw fireballs at a close range like this. Now, let's say you did establish that good anti-air game, or you're very strong on your DPs, or whatever you choose to anti-air with. Throwing fireballs at this range can be a bait to get them into jumping, right? And you can get a DP or anti-air. Maybe your game has anti-air combos, or you can do something like DP into super. You just have to sort of hit them a little deeper, I think, for that with the DP. Now, let's say your opponent is respecting your fireball game and doesn't jump in a lot. What you can do is throw fireballs a little closer, or you can use pokes that go into fireball, sort of like this. You just have to remember that your anti-airs have to be very consistent for this fireball game to work. Because if your anti-airs aren't consistent, the opponent has no repercussions for just jumping over your fireballs consistently and trying to get to you. Anyways, that's it for today. I'm not very well versed in, the zoner archetype, so I wanted to learn a lot about it and ask somebody who I knew was very knowledgeable about it and then share that information with you guys. If this did help, please do consider subscribing, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.